Okay, 4.2, constructing arithmetic sequences. So as I go through this, one of the things I want to point out here, when we look at this form, just recognize that as y equals mx plus b. So when we're looking at this, this is our y-intercept, or our zero term. This is our slope again. Now, one of the things I want to note is as I go through this lesson, you're going to notice a difference in how I do the problem and what the textbook does. So one of the things it mentions here, common difference, okay? All common difference is again, common difference is our slope. So common difference can be positive or negative, depending on what's happening to the values. Are they going up, going down? Okay? So here's a great example of how I want to demonstrate the difference. So in this particular example, if I look at the pattern, what's happening every time? Well, I'm going up 500. So that is my slope. So if I were writing the equation in function notation, I'd be writing f of n equals 500 n plus, okay, now my y-intercept. Well, what's my y-intercept? It's my zero term. So if I go backwards here, find my zero term, that means I subtract 500. So that means this would be 1500. So for me, my equation would be 500n plus 1500. Okay, easy enough. However, the book does it a little differently. The book does it in a given way, right here. So what the book does is a format like this. So let me write it in function notation. So the book does f of n equals term 1 plus m, your slope, times n minus 1. Now, let me show you that they're the same thing. So I'm going to use my iPad here, and I'm going to do some erasing here so I can show you how these are similar. So I'm going to take the equation that they've got right up here that I just circled in yellow, and I'm going to show you that it's the same thing that I got right up here with this. Okay, so watch this. So I'm going to take their equation here. So that's 2000 plus, and I'm going to do distributive property. It's going to be 500 n minus 500. Now watch, if I take those two, which are like terms, and I do 2000 minus 500, then I end up with 500 n plus 1500, which is the exact same thing that I got right up here. So what do we say about math? Same thing in different ways. Now, what you're going to want to note is this is how you're going to have to do the problems on the online homework. This is how they're going to expect you to write those. So just be aware of that as you go through. Okay, so let's do a couple of the your turn problems real quick. Okay, so here's one. Write a recursive rule and an explicit rule. Okay, recursive rule, very easy. Just look and see what's happening every time. Okay, what's happening? They're going down by 14. Okay, so if they're going down by 14, the recursive rule would be this. F of n equals f of n minus 1 minus 14. So again, remember, all this represents right here is the previous term. So you're taking the previous term, subtracting 14, that gives you the new one, which is what this represents, the new term. Now, as far as explicit rule goes, then I'm going to do it the way the book does, which is f of n equals first term. Your first term is right here, which is 155, plus your m. Well, in this case, since my m is a negative, it's minus 14 times parentheses n minus 1. That's how the book would write it. Now, for me, I would write it as f of n equals your slope, negative 14n, plus your y-intercept, which is your zero term. So for me, that would be your zero term. You would go back, you would add 14, and that would give you 169 plus 169. and that's how I would do it. So this is me, that's me as far as my equation, and this is the book and how the book would do their equation. Okay, let's look at another one. Same exact thing, only difference is it's not in a table form. So again, what I do, I look and see what's happening. Plus 10, plus 10. So recursive rule would be this. Remember, recursive always has two f's in it. F of n minus 1, what are we doing? Plus 10. For the book, explicit rule would be f of n equals first term, which is the 6, plus your slope, which is 10, times n minus 1. And then for me, remember I would do it f of n equals your slope, which is 10, n, plus your 0 term. So to get your 0, you go backwards. So I'm going to subtract 10. If I subtract 10, that gives me a -4. That's my 0 term. So plus -4, or let's just do it this way. Let's write minus 4. And that's what mine would look like. All right, let's do one more here real quick. Same sort of thing. It says the graph shows a sequence around an explicit rule in function notation. So we're doing explicit. So again, for me, or for the book would be f of n equals, okay, so I need to find my slope. What's happening here? We're going up 8 every time. So for the book, it's f of n equals first term, which is 10, plus slope times n minus 1. That's the book. Again, for me, mine would be f of n equals slope times n plus your 0 term. So how do I get my 0 term? I go backwards, which means I'm going to subtract 8. 10 minus 8 would be 2. So that would be plus 2, and that would be at 0, 2. That's your 0 term. So that would be how I would write the equation. So we would get into the homework section, work some of these online. Just remember the book format, what I do, a little different, and we'll continue to talk about why we have those differences.